Oh, did I tell you I was at my I was at the booster juice in my college today, and there's like a machine behind the counter, and one of the buttons on it said Pog Juice.
Hell yeah!
I asked what Pog Juice was, but like the guy working there didn't give me a clear answer, unfortunately.
If I'm correct, there is like you can actually get pog juice, and it's like pomegranate, orange, and guava or something like that. It's like it's like a
Oh,
variety of fruits.
okay, okay,
All
that's
right,
helpful.
yeah. Hello and welcome back to Umineko.
Why are you laughing?
At the conversation we just had, that I will consider whether or not I leave in as a cold open.
Yeah,
Um, but this is an irregularity for us because this is the second episode we're recording tonight.
yeah, we're really trying to finish up
Yeah,
this episode of the game.
because we're so fucking close.
Yeah.
Time to begin after kicking out all the servants and Maria, I think. Did they actually kick out Maria too? I think they kicked out Maria too.
Think so, yeah.
Aunt Natsui didn't tell them to leave with her own words, but with wordless pressure, she induced them to say that themselves. Because if Dr. Nanjo didn't say those words, this cold silence would surely continue forever. Calm yourself, Natsui-san. Still, I understand your feelings as well. I myself feel like there's something wrong with my head after all these strange, repeated incidents. So I understand well why you want to suspect us. If you really have nothing to do with this, then my actions now would be beyond rude. However, please understand just this once. She's one hell of a host, I'll give her that. Very well. Let's leave the room. What do you say, Genji-san? Shall we return to the parlor and continue our chess game? If that is what you wish, by all means.
Uh, I don't want to. After all, that means we'll have to leave this room knowing that the wolf is among us,
Among Us.
right? Among Us reference.
Among Us reference.
First there was game theory, now there's Among Us.
Oh my god.
I don't want to, madam. Please forgive me. Eek.
It was obvious what Kumasawa-san was trying to say. If she was innocent, then she was being ejected into dangerous territory along with the culprit. In the current situation, urging her to leave this room along with the suspects was almost exactly the same as letting her get killed. However, Kumasawa-san really was suspicious just for being the first one to discover that Kanan-kun had been murdered. At that time, everyone except Kumasawa-san had an alibi. Unless we could prove the existence of some contraption or the existence of some 19th person, Kumasawa-san was by far the most likely suspect. I didn't want to believe it. However, Aunt Natsui and the rest of us were in such a difficult situation that we couldn't help suspecting her as well. So we didn't say anything to stop Aunt Natsui from trying to oppressively chase them from the room. We had stopped her from shooting, but we were passively agreeing to chase the others out of the room. On top of that, Maria spoke to the fretful Kumasawa-san.
It's okay. Beatrice is kind to those who respect her. You believe that Beatrice exists. So it'll definitely be okay. I'll watch TV in the parlor. Let's watch it together. It's so boring here without TV.
I want to watch Coco Melon. Maria, no! It looked like Kumasawa found Maria's roguish laugh very frightening. However, the three other people had agreed to leave the room. Kumasawa couldn't fight the flow and had to agree, crying as she went. Well then, Natsui-san, that will be all for tonight. Let us meet again tomorrow. Yes, please understand, at least for tonight. When the police come, all of us will surely apologize for our rudeness. You may play chess, but do it in a safe place if you can. Genji, I leave them in your hands. Certainly.
It can't be helped, can it? They always say that the most frightening bears are those with their children.
Genji, Kumasawa, my sincere apologies. Let us meet again tomorrow. Maria-chan too. Please forgive your cold aunt.
I forgive you.
Madam, the keys to this room, I will hand both over to you. Genji-san pulled 2 golden keys from his pocket and handed them to Aunt Natsuhi. And I will also hand over my bundle of keys to the inside of the mansion. He took out a bundle of about 10 keys of various shapes and handed it over. To the servants, those keys were probably proof of their position. Being placed in charge of those keys meant that they were trusted, relied upon. When they were forced to return them, it meant they had lost that trust. Thinking about it this way, to Genji-san, who had worked here for a span of many years, there could be no greater shame. However, Genji-san's usual indifferent expression remained on his face. Genji, I had planned that after father passed away, I would reward you for your many years of hard work and allow you to retire. To treat you like this makes me feel ashamed from the bottom of my heart. I have already received the master's favor. Everything I have done until today has been in repayment for that. Please do not worry over it. Well then, shall we, everyone? Good night to you all.
Good night. Good night to you too, Battler.
Okay, why did you single me out? Maria, wait a sec. Knowledge
An
of guilt.
extra good night. Oh, an
Knowledge of
extra good night to you, Battler.
knowledge of guilt made me call Maria back. I groped around in my pocket and took out the scorpion keychain. This repels magic, right? Wear it.
Didn't you say you dropped it?
Back then, I got ticked off and just bluffed that I lost it. There's no way I'd lose that precious charm you gave me. Maria silently took the charm. I was unable to say anything after that. Well then, everyone, good night to you. We watched them leave, our expressions completely worn out, and we weren't even able to respond. Till the door closed and we heard the auto lock, we were unable to breathe. Then, we were finally allowed to take a breath. After that, I noticed that Beatrice's letter, which I had been gripping the whole time and which was soaked with my sweat, actually had 2 sheets. The paper had been tightly stuck together, so I mistakenly thought there was only one. The Triforce? There were no characters on the second sheet. The thing drawn there was a magic circle, written with red ink like blood. Just like how every magic circle up until then had been different. This magic circle was one I'd never laid eyes on before. And inside this circle, a large triangle and a small triangle were fit together in a simple design. But, just as before, there was writing in Hebrew, and it seemed clear that it held some kind of meaning. I wanted to know what that could be, but we had just chased Maria, the only person who could understand the meaning of magic circles, out of the room. I thought of this magic circle as Beatrice's second message. What does this magic circle mean? Damn it! After chasing out all the suspicious people, all we had to do was stay barricaded here until morning, and everything would probably be over. Once the typhoon has passed, when the seagulls cry, will everything be resolved? But the letter, which had unexpectedly appeared in the study, forced us to reject that naivete. It had made it very clear that, if time ran out, it would mean the witch's victory. When time runs out, is the witch planning to take on the offensive? This time, is she planning to display some fearful magical power? Maybe something that could have been used to kill 6 adults at once? Wait, when is time supposed to run out anyway? I don't know anything. With this, we should finally be safe. Finally. Definitely. Even as she said that, Aunt Natsui couldn't stop gripping that rifle. There was no release in the tension of her expression. Of course, none of us felt like breathing a sigh of relief. At least, not until we could hear the cry of the seagulls once more.
Ah,
Massive jump scare clock.
it's so close.
It feels like it's been getting closer every time we see it.
Fuck, it probably has. I just didn't realize.
After we chased them out, nobody wanted to say anything. Oh, thank God, I won't have to talk to myself. All of the suspicious ones had been driven away. Even though we knew there might be some innocence among them, we still did it. We chased them out of this paradise, where people don't have to suspect each other. But our motive for chasing them out was suspicion of one person towards another. The worst kind of crime for a human. If we had accepted the existence of a 19th person, of the witch, then we all might still be talking face to face, trusting in each other. In that instant, we had agreed to chase out all of the suspicious people. But had that been the right thing to do? During this endless silence, we could do nothing but be quietly tormented by that sin. Aunt Natsui faced the door without letting go of her rifle for even an instant, sitting far back in the sofa. She would probably spend the night staring at the door without a wink of sleep. George Aniki gazed through a gap in the closed curtain by the window, looking down at the courtyard and the mansion that surrounded it. I didn't know whether he was checking to see if a suspicious shadow would become visible through the window, or whether he was wondering to himself about something. Jessica was sitting sideways on the sofa next to Aunt Natsui, with a dead expression on her face. And every once in a while, as though she just remembered something, she'd take out the inhaler she had used during her asthma attack and stick it in her mouth. I just heard it from Aniki. But apparently Jessica liked Canon-kun. It was apparently so vague that she hadn't realized it herself. You know, it's the kind of thing other people tend to spot before the person in question realizes it. Which means she might have first learned of her feelings when the person she liked died. It must have been so terrible, so sad. Come to think of it, Canon-kun was the one who handed her that inhaler. Maybe she was remembering that. I was fishing around Grandfather's study, thinking I'd research the meaning of the magic circle on the letter's second sheet. Even though we were shut up here in a defensive position, my rebellious nature made me want to find some key, some way to resist. After all, we've got plenty of time before tomorrow morning. Who could fault me for how I used that time? No one else showed that much interest in this magic circle. Its meaning was unknown, and once we understood it, we were sure to find some message that would cause us unnecessary anguish. I felt the same way. However, I couldn't just ignore it, so I killed time by going through the motions of researching it. You sure are enthusiastic. Did you find anything that might serve as a hint? Not a thing. First tough part is finding a book written in Japanese. Just how many languages could Grandfather read? He's incredible. Aren't you tired, Battler-kun? You should take a rest while someone else stays awake. Aunt Natsui said she'd stay up all night for us, but there's no way her body can handle that. We should take turns sleeping. Then you sleep first, Aniki. I'll keep researching till I get sleepy. You mean that magic circle just now? Yeah. We got plenty of time to kill. I thought it'd be interesting to find out what kind of message Beatrice Sama put in it. Give it a rest. Mess around with stuff like that, and you'll end up getting possessed by something weird. Don't worry, I've been certified by Maria. She said I've got no spiritual talent at all. Were we too cruel to Maria? Jessica, you mustn't think that now. But Mom, if Maria wasn't involved and there's a culprit besides her, then she's obviously a soft target for the murderer. If she's killed because of this, then we've just let her to die. A gloomy silence settled once again. It looked like Jessica regretted letting her emotions take hold of her and snapping at Maria. She's always been like that. Always acting tough and regretting it later. I understand how you feel, but Maria was in close contact with the culprit, and she might have been siding with them, talking like that over and over to further confuse matters. I am relieved that we chased them out. It's pretty harsh, Aunt Nasui. Couldn't it have just been the nonsense of a 9-year-old girl? It probably wasn't very convincing to hear that coming from me. I myself thought Maria was creepy on several occasions, even doubting her true nature. And when Maria was chased out of this room, I couldn't deny I felt some relief. If that is the case, then tomorrow we will apologize for what we did. I will take full responsibility for chasing them out of this room. This isn't something the rest of you have to worry about. I could feel a tragic determination in Aunt Natsuhi's words. To protect her own daughter, she had resolutely chased out the suspicious ones. And if, as a result, she had to watch the people who had unfortunately been suspected die, so be it. She was prepared to take full responsibility. Why does Maria have to keep saying stuff like that? She's bringing about her own ruin. I think the reason Maria-chan adores witches and magic so much might be Aunt Rosa. Aunt Rosa? What does she have to do with this? Didn't you realize it too, Battler-kun? Maria-chan's real father ran off somewhere a long time ago. Although Aunt Rosa tried to confuse the issue by saying he's on a foreign business trip. Talking about Rosa-san's family has become a kind of taboo in the Ushiromiya family. I think Aunt Rosa thought about remarrying, but I also believe Maria-chan may have become her shackles and made that quite difficult. After all, she sometimes got really emotional and hit Maria-chan. I agree with you there. It looked like Aunt Rosa was trying hard to like Maria, which means that she didn't really like her. She might have thought of Maria as someone who stood in the way of her remarrying. I think that emotional rejection from her mother must have left some deep scars on her young heart. So she learned about this occult hobby from somewhere and immersed herself in to bury the holes in her heart. Did you know? To Maria-chan, the image of a witch isn't a negative at all. Remember yesterday at the beach when she showed us her notebook? Yeah. It was full of those fun-looking scribbles. Yesterday, when we were down by the beach, doubting the witch, Maria got all riled up and started explaining about witches. And not one of the pages has shown a picture of an ugly witch. They were all brightly colored, beautiful, cute witches who looked like they were having fun. There was absolutely nothing sinister about them, like a boy might have imagined. They were beings adorned with beautiful dresses who could grant anyone's dreams with their mysterious magic and who made everyone happy. The sorrow of not being loved by her mother. Had Maria sought help from witches as beings who could give her happiness and save her? Someday a witch would come and using her wonderful magic would bring Maria happiness. Even though she believed that, as she grew older, she had to face reality as her fleeting dreams were sliced to ribbons one by one. If something claiming to be the witch of Rokkenjima appeared in front of a girl like that, whispering that she'd take Maria to the Golden Land where Maria could be happy. Now that it's come to this, I want to confess what's in my heart. Throwing out Maria-chan, no, Genji-san and the rest too, was probably the wrong thing to do, I think. It wasn't pleasant. Since Jessica had been the one to face them and slam them with words of rejection, her conscience must be tormenting her a lot right now. Then how do you all explain the letter? No one could have said it there except the 4 people standing behind us. I made sure of that with my own eyes. If those 4 are innocent, how was the letter placed in a closed room with 8 people? That's right. When you put it that way, those 4 really do seem suspicious. But it's all useless. It's all useless. Useless? What is? Right. It might not be worth anything anymore, but let me spin the chessboard around again. In other words, if one of those 4s really was the culprit, isn't that weird? That's right. Wasn't setting that letter openly on the table the same as confessing that one of them was the culprit? You're right, that's weird. If they were going to do it, you'd think they'd put it in the crack of the door, for example, to make it look like someone had slipped it in from the outside. Of course they should have known they'd be suspected if they didn't make it look like the culprit was outside the room. Yeah, that's it exactly. If the culprit was one of those 4, setting that letter right in the middle of the table would be both risky and meaningless. But putting aside whatever trick was used to set it there, if we assume that the culprit is someone other than those 4, in other words, someone who was outside the room, then they had a lot to gain from that letter. Enough, Battler-kun. It's meaningless to discuss such matters now. Natsui-san quickly guessed what I was getting at. No, maybe she had thought of it long before I had and simply held her tongue. If the culprit's outside the room, then they'd be totally stuck the moment we shut ourselves up in a closed room like this. That's right. It's the same as my theory about how Grandfather disappeared from this room, isn't it? That theory was that Grandfather left the room of his own accord. If the culprit used some tactic to lure him out and Grandfather left of his own accord, then... Come to think of it, when we found the scorpion magic circle on the doorknob to the study, Maria said it herself. Beatrice couldn't get through this door, but she could induce someone to leave of their own accord. Which would mean we fell for the culprit's trap completely and sent out some new potential sacrifices? Genji and the rest aren't fools. When they try to protect themselves, they should find the next safest place after this room. They will definitely be able to hide themselves there. Aunt Natsui hadn't answered the question. Aunt Natsui realized herself had realized that if the culprit wasn't in our group back then, that letter would make sense as a trap. However, it wasn't worth the risk of calling the people she had once thrown out. To Aunt Natsui right now, her greatest and only duty was to protect the children. By her thinking, in order to do that, a few sacrifices were unavoidable. Hey, Aunt Natsui, let me say something a little harsh, okay? At that time, what if, by coincidence, Jessica had also been standing behind you? Would you have chased Jessica from the room too? It's true that a lot of brutal things have happened, but as a mother, you thought you should protect your daughter no matter what. Because of that duty, you chased them out, even though you knew that you'd eventually be held responsible for it. It's not like I'm condemning that, but, I was just thinking about what a great mother Jessica has. That's right. You've been dealing with these incidents since morning, and you've been pulling all of us along this whole time without losing your composure. If you were all confused too, the rest of us would probably be in the culprit's grasp by now. So I think we all have to thank you. Thank you. So what you two are trying to say is that you want her to act as Maria's mother too? I always thought of Maria as a real little sister and adored her. And yet, a few things happened, we got a little confused, and I said a lot of mean things to her, hurting her. Mom, please, let's stay together with Maria. No, everyone. There's no culprit among us. The culprit in this case is the witch, Beatrice, okay? So, let's stop suspecting each other. Aunt Natsui closed her eyes for a short while. Was she coping with her throbbing headache again? Or was she thinking of something? You are my precious daughter. The one I finally received a whole 12 years after I married my husband. I would become the worst kind of demon to protect you. That was some pretty strong language at the end there. She realized very well that her words were an idealized view of what a mother should be. But even so, she was strongly resolved to protect her daughter, even if she had to become a demon. But that was her guilty conscience tormenting her. Today's been so long. So many things happened in one day, and we've been driven into a corner so thoroughly. I wonder if we have the right to greet tomorrow the way we are now. There it is. I found it. It's this magic circle. Inside the book I'd been flipping through, I had found the same magic circle that had been drawn on the second sheet of the letter. Georgianki peered at it as well. This magic circle's name was the third magic circle of Mars. The Hebrew written on it was from Psalm 77, verse 13 of the Old Testament. What God is so great as our God? The meaning of this magic circle was discord. I'm howling at the moon and sleeping in the middle of a summer afternoon. Discord, whatever could we do? Couldn't help myself.
Understandably so.
Agitate
That's a good one.
Yeah. Agitate internal divisions and cause the enemy to bring about their own downfall. Wait a sec. Seriously? Could there be a more fitting way to describe our current situation and mental state? We couldn't help but be stunned into silence. So this letter was a trap? How did they place it here? There wasn't anyone in this room except for the 8 of us, right? Anyway, let's ignore how they got it in here for now. The culprit was after just one thing. They wanted to spread the seeds of doubt inside this impregnable room and use us to throw the sacrificial sheep out. In that case, they're after the people who went out of the room. Mom, what should we do? Those 4 are in danger. It wasn't surprising that Aunt Natsui remained unpleasantly silent. Even if this was all but a trap by the culprit, even if the 4 who had been chased out of the room were in danger, it had nothing to do with the safety of the 4 people in here. And there was no way to prove the innocence of the 4 people we chased out. If we're willing to let them die, then we shouldn't leave them in the room no matter what. That way is safest. At that time, suddenly, the piercing sound of a phone rang through the room. It was the antique extension phone set on the table in Grandfather's study. It had rung right after we started talking about the letter being a trap. It was natural we'd think of it as an SOS from the ones we chased out. But then Aunt Natsui spoke. Why a phone call? The phone should be broken down and unusable. That doesn't matter. If that's Maria calling for help. If the problem with the phones was the culprit's work in the first place, then this call is probably... With that one sentence, the ring of the phone, which had once sounded like a scream for help, now started to sound like a ghastly lure from some unknown person. Aunt Natsui had hesitated over whether to pick up the receiver. Let's pick it up, Aunt Natsui. The phones might have been fixed for some reason. It could still be an urgent call from Maria-chan and the rest. That's right. And if it actually is a call from the culprit, bring it on. Why don't we listen to what they've got to say? It's just a phone call. No matter what they babble through the receiver, it's not like it's gonna hurt you. If you don't pick it up, then I will. I will take it. Hello? I stretched out my hand to take the receiver, but Aunt Natsui grabbed it before I could reach. We all held our breath, trying to figure out who the person on the other end of the phone was. But for a while, Aunt Natsui kept saying hello. A silent phone call? There's no way Maria and the others would do something so creepy. Which means... Could this phone call possibly really be... Natsui stopped repeating hello and strained her ears, because she thought she heard something far away on the other end of the receiver. What was that? Huh? Someone... singing? What do you mean, singing? I don't know. Faintly from the other end of the phone, I can hear someone singing. I wonder what it could be. Give it here for a sec. Hello? I half forced the receiver from the stunned Aunt Natsui's hands and pressed it against my ear. At first, I didn't hear anything. But because I have been told about it beforehand, I noticed. It sounded far away from the receiver rather than someone speaking in a quiet voice. And it sounded like a girl singing a song. That voice did sound like Maria's, but that just made the situation even more inexplicable. At the very least, the one who had made the phone call hadn't been Maria. After all, Maria was singing some song far away from the receiver. In that case, the one who made the phone call should have been Genji-san, Kumasawa-san, or Dr. Nanja. And yet they weren't saying anything. Why? For what reason? The person who made this phone call, who was it? Hey! Hello? Who is it? Answer me! Is that Maria singing? Answer me! What's happening? What is it? I don't know. All I can say is, this is probably a trap and Maria's in trouble. Aunt Natsui took the receiver again, but after yelling into it several more times, she realized she wasn't getting anywhere and hung up. After that, she dialed quickly. Then she clicked her tongue. That's right, if the phones were working, we should be able to reach the police. But judging by Aunt Natsui's reaction, the outside telephone line still didn't connect. Let's go! Even if we know it might be a trap, we have to go! Yeah, definitely! Jessica, Aunt Natsui, stay here! When Aniki and I tried to dash out, Aunt Natsui stopped us. Hold it. Hold it. Oh, I did the Jessica voice. Hold it. I cannot let you go alone. I will go too. Jessica, wait here. What? So I'll be the only one left out? Nice try, but I'm going too. Yeah, it might be better that way. If the goal of that phone call was to split us up further, it wouldn't be a good idea to leave someone to watch this room. There's no time to argue. Let's all go. Aunt Natsui raised the rifle high and took the lead. I couldn't go unarmed myself. I found a 3-pronged candle and readied it. Although the pins on it used to fit candles were short, it was almost like a 3-pronged spear. Then, the four of us left the study. We left the study, which should have been the safest place inside the mansion. By doing this, we had been lured out, even though we had barricaded ourselves in a safe, closed room. Perhaps we were doing the exactly the same thing Grandfather had done when he disappeared from that room. Maria! Where are you? Answer me! I listened closely but didn't hear anything. The mansion was vast, and since the passing typhoon was making its last stand, the sound of the rain was even noisier than before. Maria-chan said she wanted to watch TV in the parlor, right? Let's try going downstairs. That's right. Let's try there. Everyone be mindful of your surroundings. Yeah! With Aunt Natsui in the center, her rifle readied and her finger on the trigger, we moved in a group, our backs together, checking our surroundings in all directions. It was just as though the magic circle. It was just as though the magic of that magic circle designed to spread discord had worked. We had split up, and furthermore, had been dragged out into dangerous territory. In other words, even now, we were doing just what the culprit wanted us to do. This was a separate world where it wouldn't be odd for anything to suddenly occur. Aunt Natsui nervously pointed the barrel of the gun at every dark spot and shadow. It felt like that motion was out of fear rather than caution. But that rifle she held in her hand should have been a trump card that the culprit feared. You know, I've been thinking, it wouldn't be impossible to stick one of those ice picks into someone's chest, like in Kanen-kun's case. But splitting the skull and sticking them into the forehead, like in my parents' case, wouldn't be that easy. You think the culprit had that kind of animal strength? They probably had some kind of weapon, a device that can shoot or pound in those ice picks. The handle is too short to be driven in that deeply by human strength alone. Either way, they have enough force to break through a skull. I heard Kanen-kun reach as far as his lungs. If you happen to see your opponent, don't go forwards. You mustn't move away from my back. Just how sinister and frightening was the weapon that could shoot those creepy ice picks? And could I do anything to combat it with just this candle stand in my hand? In the first murder, the culprit probably assaulted all four of our parents at once as they discussed the inheritance problem in the dining hall. And there were four of us here now. Apparently, I wasn't the only person thinking this. George Aniki, Jessica, and of course Aunt Natsui were stretching their senses to the utmost limit in the highest and worst state of tension, slowly advancing one step, then another. What have we done? Because of the seeds of doubt that spread by that one letter, we threw Maria and the rest into the middle of this terrifying world. We finally reached the first floor. The parlor was just across the hall. When we listened carefully, we could hear it faintly. Maria's eerie singing voice. She wasn't singing naturally as though she were in a good mood. She was singing mechanically, like she was at a graduation ceremony and she'd been ordered to. The song she sang was just a common folk song, one that everyone has probably sung in school at one time or another. But why that, in the middle of the night, alone, with all her heart, over and over? Why? Right after leaving the study, we called out in loud voices, asking Maria where she was. But this time, no one said even a single word. We hid our breath and the sound of our footsteps and, intensely focused on our surroundings to the point of being completely high-strung, we stepped forward. The door to the parlor was closed, but we could hear Maria's singing voice through it. Aunt Natsui put her hand on the handle of the doorknob when George Aniki stopped her. I'll open the door. Aunt Natsui, Bat Raccoon, ready your weapons. Understood. Take care. They might attack as soon as we open it. George Nissan, watch yourself. Sure. Then, I'll open it. Huh? He tried to open it, but immediately felt the hard resistance of the lock. Aunt Natsui took the bundle of keys from her pocket and gave them to George. There were about 10 keys, and none of us had a clue which was which. Because of this, George had to fumble around loudly and test several of the keys. Since we had hidden our footsteps, preparing to make a surprise attack on the room, this felt almost fatal. The whole time we'd hear Maria's voice from the parlor, singing the same song over and over. It was like a broken, crazy cassette tape. We'd been in that room almost constantly since morning. All the frightening things had occurred outside that room. That had left us with the impression that only this room was safe. That baseless impression was quickly falling apart. It's open. Thank you. George-kun, Jessica, move behind me. Aunt Natsui, let's jump in and spend time and split up in different directions. If we just stand around after opening the door, those ice picks might fly right through the center. I agree. Ready? I really wish I could say no. I readied myself. They're gonna be throwing ice picks. I'll whack them with this candle stand. Go! Aunt Natsui and I rammed into the door before flying into the parlor, quickly spitting up left and right and searching the parlor for someone who might be waiting for us. But what our eyes laid upon was an incredibly strange sight. The parlor was stained with blood. This place where we spent almost the entire day, where we pressed in together to protect ourselves from some unknown malice, had been stained with fresh blood, had become an ocean of blood. On the floor lay Genji-san, Kumasawa-san, and Dr. Nanjo, their entire bodies stained bright red with the blood.
Servant Genji, found in the parlor. He had a weapon resembling an ice pick sticking out of his stomach, and his face had been smashed. At the sixth twilight, gouged the stomach and kill. Emily Dr. Nanjo, found in the parlor. His thigh had a weapon resembling an ice pick sticking out of it, and his face had been smashed. At the seventh twilight, gouged the knee and kill. Found in the parlor. Her calf had a weapon resembling an ice pick sticking out of it, and her face had been smashed. At the eighth twilight, gouge the leg and kill.
But the only way we could identify them was by their clothes. That was because... that's right, this is how the whole tragedy started. Their faces, just like their smashed up parents in the shed. You couldn't tell where their eyes stopped and their noses began. It was as though they'd been rudely plunged their faces into tomato pot pies, all squished up. That wasn't all. Their bodies had other wounds. It was those demon ice picks. They're in Genji-san's stomach, Dr. Nanjo's thigh, no, his knee? That's right, of course it's his knee! In the epitaph, the 6th twilight was the stomach, and on the 7th twilight, the knee was gouged. So after seeing one of them stuck near Kumisawa-chan's calf, I couldn't help but masochistically laughing. Haha, that's right! On the 6th twilight, gouge the stomach and kill. On the 7th twilight, gouge the knee and kill. On the 8th twilight, gouge the leg and kill. Now even the 8th twilight is over. And the next one, the 9th twilight. What was it again? Maria was there. She was facing the wall in the inner part of the room, standing stock still, completely alone. She faced away from this horrible scene, standing by the wall, singing her song over and over. There was nothing else in the room. Just the corpses of the 3 who had been brutally killed, and the phone receiver, which was still off its hook, proving that this was the room the call had come from. Just that, and Maria. Her back to the scene as she kept on singing while facing the wall. We couldn't even scream at this bizarre scene. We could only stare, shocked with our mouths hanging loosely open. Maria? Jessica called out to her, but Maria showed no reaction. Alone, she kept singing on and on. We had come here trying to save Maria from some approaching danger. So now that we found her, we should have been running up to Maria, hugging her, joyous that she was safe. And yet not one of us could do that. Everyone thought it, but they couldn't say it. After all, because that's right, even if that's crazy. No, it couldn't be. Maria! Stop singing! Are you listening? At some point, Aunt Natsui and I pointed our weapons at Maria's back. I yelled at Maria in a violent voice, but there was no reaction. She just kept singing. With the candle stand still readied, I ran up to her and forcefully, no, violently slammed my head down on her shoulder. Then I pulled on her shoulder, forcing her to turn around. Maria's small body was quickly pulled down and fell. And as though unhappy at having her singing interrupted, Maria looked into my face with her usual expression. Even in this gruesome situation, she was just like normal. Maria, what is this? Who did it?
Beatrice.
Cut the crap! I threw the candle stand I'd been holding against the wall. The violence of that reckless sound should have gone straight into Maria's heart. But Maria's expression didn't change at all. Pretty bad, Lagoon. Maria-chan, this time you should have seen the face of the culprit who killed these 3. Was the culprit the same Beatrice who gave you the letter?
Beatrice.
Well, in that case, it's certain. There's a 19th person. Beatrice does exist. Then, Maria, will you at least tell me this much? How did they kill these 3 people? What did they use to kill them in such a brutal way?
I don't know.
How could you not know? It happened in this room. Are you trying to tell me you were so absorbed in thinking that you didn't notice? Calm down, Bat Lagoon. Maria-chan, talk to me, okay? George Aniki, as he always did, crouched down next to Maria so that their eyes met and talked to her very kindly. Maria-chan, why were you facing the wall and singing?
Beatrice had to face the wall and keep singing for a long time.
So did Beatrice come here? Were Genji-san and the rest still alive then?
Everyone came into the parlor together and sat down. Genji-san made sure to lock the door.
It was locked when we got here, but then how did Beatrice get into the parlor? You
Uh,
still...
ooh, Beatrice is a witch, so locks don't matter. She turned into butterflies and came in through a crack in the door.
Huh? Calmly joking at a time like this? Like hell that happened! What are you saying?
You can't believe it? That's why I didn't want to say. No matter how I say it, you won't believe. But Beatrice is a witch. She can do anything with her miraculous magic. That's why Beatrice doesn't care whether a door is locked or not.
And hold on, did I accidentally skip anything? No, I didn't. And then, after Beatrice appeared, what happened to everyone?
Beatrice talked to us. She said grandfather's study was protected by a powerful force, and she couldn't enter, no matter what she did. So she told us she'd select 3 sacrifices from the 4 people in the parlor. Everyone said no way. Kumasawa-san kept saying, no way, no way. But Beatrice chose. And when she did, Beatrice said I'd be fine. Why do you think? It's because of the scorpion charm with the 5th magic circle of Mars. The one Battler used to pray for my safety. The one he put his feelings into. Because of that power, Beatrice couldn't do anything to me, and me alone. So she decided to use the other 3 as sacrifices. After that, Beatrice spoke. Come, face the wall and sing a song for me. You will sing lots and lots of songs. So no matter what happens, no matter what you hear, you won't hear, you know. You won't know. Come, sing lots of fun songs for me. So I was singing the whole time. Over and over. But I didn't hear anything, didn't know anything. Then all of you came. Ugh.
Are you asking us to believe that? You think we're stupid?
Then who will you suspect this time? Will you suspect me? Gonna try killing me right here? Even if you do that, Beatrice won't stop existing. Now the 8th twilight is over, and Beatrice will revive.
Are you serious? I've had enough of that talk. As if witches could exist, as if I'd let myself get tricked. I won't accept this. Beatrice doesn't exist. I definitely won't accept it. So I won't let her exist. I won't let her revive. The legend will remain a legend forever. I won't acknowledge something like that. Quit it, Battler. It's not like Maria killed them or let them die. Beatrice came and Maria had to obey. Was unable to resist. Huh? Aunt Nazi? She isn't here. Huh? What? Mom? Where did she go?
Now she left by herself, reading a letter.
A letter? That makes sense. The culprit must be so exhilarated now that we've reached the 8th twilight. They might have left a letter so they could brag even more. We were so wrapped up in questioning Maria that we forgot to look for our letter. But even as well armed as she was, why had she left the room by herself in this dangerous mansion after reading it? Jessica tried to chase after her and tugged at the handle to the door, but it resisted strangely and wouldn't open. Mom! What's going on? Open up! Open up! I can't do a I sound like I'm complaining. It was only natural. Natsui had picked up the candle stand, which Battler had thrown at the wall and which had fallen to the floor. She had then skillfully wedged it between the doorknobs on the double door like a bolt, holding them closed. The intricate design of the candle stand caused it to get caught solidly, and it really did make a sturdy seal on the door. The tragic scream of a daughter for her mother. Did it reach Natsui's ears or not? Natsui's figure was alone in the entrance hall. It was a place decorated by the portraits of Beatrice. Natsui threw down Beatrice's last letter, the one she had read in the parlor, readied her rifle again, and in a voice that rang clear, yelled in the massive space that was the entrance hall. I am Uchiromiya Natsui, representative of the Uchiromiya family. Show yourself, Golden Witch Beatrice. The entrance hall was dimly lit. Other than a faint light which shone on the center of the room, everything was blotted out by the jet black darkness. In that darkness, butterflies, glittering in gold, squirmed, twinkled, and sneered. Natsui gave one more huge gulp and pointed the cold barrel of the gun at the gold butterflies. So you have finally shown yourself. I still can't believe that something like you really exists. But that isn't a problem. Both I, who bear the title of representative to the Uchiromiya family, and you, who claim to succeed the headship of the Uchiromiya family, are here right now. At this point, whether you are a witch or not is a trivial matter. Come, let us settle this. Which of us will truly succeed the Uchiromiya family? I, Uchiromiya Natsui, or you, Beatrice? Allow me to respectfully accept your request for a duel. When I talked about challenging Beatrice to a duel, I completely forgot that happens.
I had also forgotten that it happens.
The gold butterflies slowly formed a human shape which walked into the dim light. Natsui readied the rifle and glared. The witch raised her golden staff overhead and laughed. Natsui's finger slowly squeezed the trigger. And go! Battler made an all-out dash at the door and rammed into it, crushing the handle stand that had been barring it and making it possible for a big gap to be opened at the door. He kept kicking the candle stand through that gap, and the door was finally released. At that time, they heard it. They certainly heard the crisp sound of gunfire ring out once. Mom! Mom! Shizuka-chan, you mustn't run off by yourself. Was that the sound of a gun just now? Did Aunt Natsui shoot? At whom? At the culprit! The noise had come from the entrance hall. And the entrance hall looked like a stage. Like the heroine of a tragedy, on the ground and bathed in light. Arrayed in the beauty of that silence, Aunt Natsui lay face up, crumpled on the floor. Half crazed, Jessica ran up to Aunt Natsui. On Aunt Natsui's forehead, it was almost as though a sparkling shard of pigeon blood ruby had been placed there.
Ushiromiya Natsuhi, found shot to death in front of the witch's portrait. This thing is crunchy. Quality's crunchy right now. Very crunchy quality. How
It's like, hold on.
How I can't figure how impudent of her to challenge a witch with nothing but a mere gun. Of course, she'd end up like this.
And from it, one stream of blood makeup passed by her eye and began to traverse her face. The faint smell of gunpowder smoke came from the barrel of the rifle Aunt Natsui still grasped. Huh? Then she shot herself in the forehead? Why? Mom! 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 Ah! I don't get it! Why did Aunt Natsui run away alone? And why did she shoot through her own forehead? Maria-chan, Aunt Natsui left the room after reading a letter, right? There's no letter here. Damn it, what did Aunt Natsui read and why was she lured out here? I don't know. I don't know, who cares about that? What the hell, why did she unalive herself? Why did she leave me all alone? Ah! Jessica clung to her mother's corpse, crying earnestly. My body was consumed with an anger I didn't know what to do with, and I snatched the rifle from Aunt Natsui's hand. I spun around, pointing the barrel of the gun into the darkness on all sides as though I was pointing a light from a lighthouse, trying to find the culprit. George Araki, even in this situation, was trying to calmly figure something out, but that might have been a fruitless effort. And only Maria was completely indifferent. So is this all supposed to be some kind of predetermined fate? No, that's not it. This is all a prelude to a wonderful world. The door to the Golden Land will finally open.
On the ninth twilight, the witch shall revive, and none shall be left alive. And on the 10th twilight, at journey's end, you shall attain to the power of the Golden Land's treasures, once and for the last time. With this, everything is over, Beatrice. Congratulations. Congratulations. So lead me. Lead me to the Golden Land you told me of. Right now.
There, all the dead will be revived, and even lost love will be restored. So, in Maria's eyes, it's just as though all of today's tragedies didn't happen. It's as though all the time she's been deprived of love never happened. Stop it! What's so fun? What's to be congratulated? There were 18 people on this island. 14 are dead. Only the 4 of us are left. I'm definitely not gonna die. Until the night is over. No, until the typhoon passes and the seagulls gather again at the harbor, I'm definitely not gonna die. I'll stay alive. I'll stay alive no matter what.
Give it up, Adler. Guns are useless against witches. Survival and all that stuff doesn't matter, because it's over. The journey has already ended. See? Look at the clock.
Huh? The clock? Hearing those words, I looked at my wristwatch. Both needles were almost touching near the top. Very soon, it'll be 12 o'clock at night. In other words, 2400. When you think about it, isn't 2400 is a strange time? It can be called 2400, and it also could be called 0. It's the hour at the culmination of the previous day, and at the same time, it's hour 0 as the next day begins.
Beatrice.
Maria suddenly called out happily and ran towards the darkness. It was almost as though Beatrice was somewhere in that darkness and Maria was running up to her. As Jessica hugged her mother's corpse, as George Aniki stood there confused, I looked down the barrel of the rifle, gazing into the darkness. The space in front of Beatrice's portrait lay in that direction. And the thing Maria was running up to was the portrait's subject. You got to be kidding me. This is just impossible. Like I'd fall for something like this. Witches don't exist. I won't accept it. Something like you shouldn't exist. Because this is a human world. You think I could accept something that's not human? I definitely won't accept it. When I pulled hard on the rifle's lever, the cartridge was ejected, fell on the floor, and a new cartridge was loaded. Then, I sighted the witch down the barrel. Maria turned around. Still clinging to the golden witch, she turned around.
Didn't I tell you it was meaningless? Mere lead bullets are meaningless against Beatrice. Humans are so stupid, aren't they?
I won't accept the existence of witches! Who are you? Just try moving one step, just try moving one finger! I'll blast you away! I like to imagine I know you're probably like laughing really quietly, but I like to imagine you're laughing so loud that it's clipping the mic. Like full
I
on.
didn't. I was trying not to clip the mic.
Like I was hoping for full on evil genius laugh.
It is almost 12:30 at night.
Nerd. Wait, okay, Maria's saying this apparently.
No way she's saying this.
I know.
Well, I'll say it. I'll say it.
I'll
anyways.
say it. There's no quotation marks.
Okay.
As the witch.
Okay.
No, the witches laughed. Even the large clock. Oh, fuck! Dramatic moment ruined. Even the large clock in the hall joined in on their laughter. It was probably telling us that the time was 2400. It was both a tone telling us that we had reached the culmination of this day, and a tone informing us that all had returned to nothing. The rule that the witch would win when time ran out had already been revealed.
Blair, George, Nichan, and Jessica. The journey has ended. The witch has survived. See?
And none shall be left alive. The witch shall praise the wise and bestow 4 treasures. One shall be all the gold from the golden land. One shall be the resurrection of all the dead souls. One shall be the resurrection of the love that was lost. One shall be to put the witch to sleep for all time. Sleep peacefully, my beloved witch Beatrice. The storm passed, and the leaden clouds that had enshrouded the island for so long cleared away. From the rifts between the clouds, sunbeams shone, and yesterday's storm seemed like a lie. Just as someone had wished, the seagulls returned to the harbor once again and let their lively cries be heard. Afterwards, the police came and conducted an investigation of the scene. The corpses of the children, who were thought to have survived until the very end, were never found. However, because of the body parts that were discovered and the unimaginably gruesome nature of the scene, the police were forced to conclude that the chances of survival for any of the 18, even the children, seemed hopelessly dim. Just how gruesome was the banquet of the witch? And how beautiful was the Golden Land? They were the only ones who got to hear that tale. No tales were told to those humans who arrived after the banquet was over. The best they could do was imagine what might have happened during those 2 days. However, the witch was fickle. She made a point of leaving behind this tale, which didn't need to be heard, and it was allowed to spread. Then, many years later, a strange wine bottle that had drifted on the waves to the pier of a neighboring island was pulled out by a fisherman. Inside it was a thin, tightly rolled notebook fragment written upon in cramped small letters. Written there was this tale. Though this notebook fragment, people will finally learn the truth of the mysterious and riddle-filled 2 days period that started on October 4th, 1986. This incident was later called by many names, such as the Rokkenjima mass murders or the 18 killings of Rokkenjima, the Delantes, the witch, the Genesee killer. Lovers of the occult claimed it was the result of an immoral ceremony that had sealed up the island. However, not one of these interpretations approached the truth. Furthermore, while the notebook fragment describes the mysterious incidents, it does not reveal the truth of what happened here, or perhaps even the writer didn't know what the truth was. According to the writer, her name was Ushinomiya Maria. Incidentally, as a result of an all-out police investigation, part of Maria's body, a piece of her jaw, was discovered. It was one of the rare instances where a corpse was identified thanks to dental records. At the gruesome scene, there had been many body parts that couldn't be identified as belonging to any specific person, so it's probably fair to say that this jaw was an extremely fortunate find. Because his jaw had been separated from his body, the police judged her chances of survival to be hopelessly dim, even though none of their body parts were found or at least identified. And so let us conclude this tale with the final section of this notebook fragment that Ushinomiya Maria left behind. By the time you have read this, I will probably be dead. Although there may or may not be a corpse. You who have read this, please find out the truth. That's my only wish. Utsunomiya Maria. To this day, the truth of the witch legend serial murders has not been brought to light. Oh, fuck. First game, Legend of the Golden Witch result. Utsunomiya Kraus died on the first... shit. Died on first, Rudolph died on first, chosen, Kyrie died on first, chosen, Rosa died on first, chosen, Shannon died on first, chosen, Goda died on first, chosen, Ava died on second, Stake of Asmodeus, Hideyoshi, Beelzebub second, Kinzo, Stake of Mammon fourth, Canon, Stake of Satan fifth, Genji, Stake of Lucifer sixth, Nanjo, Belphegor seventh, Kumasawa, Leviathan eighth, the Witch Beatrice, revived on the ninth twilight, finally opens the door to the Gold Land. Natsui died on the ninth twilight, the witch praised her nobility and granted her the honor of a duel. George, after he acknowledged the existence of the witch and prostrated himself, the witch involved in him, missing, as she acknowledged the existence of the witch invited her, missing, acknowledged the witch, Ushinomiya died on the 10th twilight. Will the witch invite this man who denied her existence to the Golden Land? The witch will praise the wise and should bestow 4 treasures in the Golden Land. They have been lost after no one. George chose his lost fiance. Jessica chose the boy she had liked and lost. Maria chose the lost love of her mother. Sleep peacefully, Beatrice. Let nothing disturb your slumber ever again. The winner is the Golden Witch Beatrice. Time ran out before even one of the 18 people could solve the riddle of the gold. All 18 died. When the sequels cried, none were left alive. If only it was slightly slower. God, I really hope I didn't clip the mic.
I didn't hear any clipping.
Okay, cool. Umineko no Naku Koro ni, Rondo of the Witch of Reasoning. That's episode 1. So
For the most part.
Yeah. So I know you might be thinking, what the fuck comes after this? They all fucking died. Do you want to do the little intermission thing now, or do you want to wait till another episode?
Oh, absolutely.
You want to do it now? Alright. Alright, you got new shit. Sick. Oh my god. I'm sweating from reading that much. There was supposed to be a dramatic moment, and there I was, like, fuck!